Good morning, everybody.
Howdy!
On this beautiful Sunday morning.
Yes, and you friends are probably wondering where Kim and I have been.
Busy.
And, you know, it's all fun and games until the he shows up. And Watchtower thinks the same thing. Oh, it's all fun and games until Mike and Kim show up.
Wow.
Yep. It's all fun and games, isn't it?
Well, that's a saying that from the old days.
Yes. Well, the thing is what we have here is gonna throw us back to the old days.
We're taking a stroll back to memory lane.
To memory lane.
First of all, I want to thank all of you who have sent Christmas cards and gifts and words of love and support. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We appreciate, the love and support so much. And we know we've all had a difficult year, so I think if we all show each other some love and support. And this talk I found on a website, and I'm going to put the link down below to it. If you want to hear the entire talk in its entirety, it's a doozy, let me tell you. And it also proves Geoffrey Jackson to be a liar once again.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything else in this modern day, especially now when it comes to the internet and in particular YouTube. You can't hide anymore, Watchtower, because your past will catch up and it will bite you on the backside. That's why I really like the availability of YouTube because not only can you talk about things, you can see the emotions of the people presenting their counter argument, or in this case, Watchtower setting up themselves for a future lie coming out of Geoffrey Jackson's mouth.
Well, that's what's so good about these older talks, because when we have like perishables in a refrigerator, there's a sell-by date or a use-by date.
Yeah.
Well, Watchtower, your use-by date has expired a long
time ago. Yes, exactly.
I mean, there's mold growing on top of that dish of Watchtower.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until you go pull out a moldy piece of cheese and put it on your tomato sandwich, right?
Yeah, I'll open that carton of green sour cream,
Yeah.
Fuzzy green sour cream.
Or like, in my case, hey, honey, can you smell the milk? Does the milk still smell good? Well, what does the sale-by date say? Well, then it's expired. Like Watchtower, you are expired.
Yes. Now this talk, like I said, I'm going to put the link down below if you want to listen to the entire thing, and it's from 1953, and it caught my interest because the title of the talk was Rearing Children in the New World Order. And of course, that piques interest for a lot of us who are fully awake about the New World Order.
The New World Order.
New World Society. And we heard that our whole lives. But see, they had to quit using that because it had such a conspiracy theorist, connotation
overtones.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just listen to this monkey's ass, set up the future.
Yeah, the future past.
The future past.
All right.
Men can harness the atom, but they can't harness their kids. Well, why not? With child psychologists to direct, why does delinquency increase? If the theories of training they have planted are so good, why are the fruits harvested so bad? We've only nibbled at the record of juvenile delinquency, but that small taste told us the fruit is rotten. A Brooklyn court judge contributes this caustic comment as to the cause. I think we need the woodshed for some of those young folks. But that's not considered fashionable now. Now we are told, you must not strike a child. You may be stunting a genius. But is there springing up around us a bumper crop of unstunted geniuses? Rather, are we not reaping a record harvest of juvenile delinquents? Good trees produce fine fruit, not rotten harvests. Maybe the theories planted by the child psychologists are not good trees, but rotten. Rotten trees should be chopped down. Modern methods should be uprooted, and in their place should be planted parental discipline. Not parental discipline in ways that seem right to men, since it is in neither parent nor child to direct steps or choose right ways unassisted. Look to Jehovah God. He will direct both parent and child in the right ways.
This is interesting because they start this talk with the scripture that it's not for man to direct his own steps. And they apply that, well, if it's for adults, this would be for children also. So they're setting this up for what's to come.
And it's really hard to imagine that Geoffrey Jackson has been a Jehovah for 99.9% of his life, and he's never heard this or heard portions of this repeated in a talk in a Kingdom Hall, and or not used part of this himself in delivering a talk in a Kingdom Hall.
Yeah, because we're going to show a clip here in a few minutes from, Geoffrey Jackson of what he says about corporal punishment. Now, I couldn't play a lot of the beginning of this talk because he's talking, this Colin Quackenbush, he is talking about the juvenile delinquency that they were facing in 1953. All the horrible gang wars and gang fights and murders and everything else. And it's like, oh my goodness.
I know, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of this talk that I can't even play here on YouTube. So, yeah, I know, it's disturbing. But, like we said, they're setting this up. They're basically saying, okay, Jehovah Witness parents, this is why you need to discipline your kids. Because, the heart is treacherous and evil from the youth up. And that's why you need to beat it out of your kids.
All right, let's hear Geoffrey Jackson lie about this.
Now, here's the biggie.
Well, from that reference in Ephesians, your Bible takes us back to Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24.
Proverbs 13:24, yes.
And the exact quote is, whoever holds back his rod hates his son. What does that mean?
So, Your Honour, you'll notice there's an asterisk there on the term rod, and you see the footnote?
Yeah.
Discipline or punishment. So, in the application of this, the term rod is used as a symbol or a metaphor to indicate the authority to give some punishment. For example, in a modern day setting, my father could say to me, I don't go to the movies because I had broken some of the rules of the home.
So it's not about inflicting corporal punishment then?
It absolutely is not about inflicting corporal punishment.
Disturbing. I mean, he's lying.
Well, he basically soft pedals it. That's all he's doing, is he's soft pedaling it. And the thing is that every Christian does the same thing. When something in black and white is presented in front of them, right from the Bible, they will find a way to soft pedal it. I want to thank Jane Doe for sending me this book by Deborah Grace, Crucifying the Bible.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, because like Jane Doe and I were discussing this morning, whenever Jane Doe and I do something about the Bible, we always make it relatable to Jehovah's Witnesses, because that's where we feel we're going to be the most effective.
And that's what we know.
With what we have, exactly. But Deborah Grace here points out something from Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. Now, when this is presented and a counter thought is brought forth, you're going to watch people soft pedal around what is directly in front of their face. Just like that talk. Just like that portion that we showed. We absolutely see that they're setting up for something greater when it comes to corporal punishment. But here's Isaiah 11, verses 1 and 2. And there must go forth a twig out of the stump of Jesse. Right there, every Christian is going to relate this to Jesus. See, Jesus is the promised Messiah, okay? And out of his roots a sprout will be fruitful. Now, they go on and describe a little bit more some of the things that you need to be looking for in this promised Messiah, the root of Jesse. And upon him the Spirit of Jehovah must settle down. The Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of mightiness, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of Jehovah. I'm going to stop right there because this Deborah Grace makes a very good thought-provoking point, especially for those that have subscribed to the Trinitarian doctrine. Jesus is God in the flesh. If Jesus is God in the flesh, then why would God fear himself? See, you think about what Jesus did. Did Jesus really fear God when he cured on the Sabbath? Did Jesus really fear God when he was gleaning the wheat and eating on the Sabbath? Show me one scripture where Jesus really feared God. And I'm not talking about the difference between the writers and their perspectives. Separate truth from indoctrinated fiction. The truth is, if you are looking for the Messiah to come from the root of Jesse, as is described here in Isaiah chapter 11, verses 2 and 3, then the real Messiah would not fear God, and God cannot be God in the flesh, because how can God fear himself?
Well, remember how Watchtower words it. Oh, well, it's not a fear of dread. It's more like honor and respect. And it's like, well, then why use that word?
There's that circular reasoning, because in their minds,
Cognitive dissonance.
in their minds, just like in the mind in this person presenting this talk regarding corporal punishment, they have to set the table. Just like Isaiah sets the table that the Messiah that you need to be looking for as the root of Jesse would fear God. But the Trinitarians make Jesus God, so now the question is, why does God fear God? Not going to happen.
Yeah. Now, you heard the clip with Geoffrey Jackson where he says, oh, no, this is not talking about corporal punishment. Absolutely not. Well, we have proof, Watchtower. This is our evidence that we are presenting to the court of public opinion. So here is a couple of clips from the talk where it is talking about what parents need to do in corporal punishment.
And listen how the parents, the audience, laughs it off.
Yeah, they're laughing. Laughing.
Though you give proper instruction and set the proper example, children just refuse to obey. That brings us to the subject of discipline and forces the facing of that hotly controversial question, to spank or not to spank. Many child psychologists put a hands-off sign on children, as did one who said, every time you spank your child, you show that you're hating your child. Jehovah says, he who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. A spanking may be a lifesaver to a child, for Jehovah says, "Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you beat him with a rod, he will not die. If you beat him with the rod, you will save his life from Sheol." Again, blows that wound cleanse away evil. Strokes make clean the innermost parts. It is Jehovah who can peer into the innermost parts of men and children. And at one time, typical of our day, he did this and saw, "The inclination of the heart of man is bad from his youth up." The remedy? Folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline drives it far from him. With some children, occasions arise when words fall short, and parents may have to become men and women of action, applying the rod to preserve the child from spoiling. But regarding the use of the rod, the literal rod, recently in the face of mounting juvenile delinquency, many child psychologists are doing an about-face on spanking, many swinging back to the rod idea. Many have been forced to admit that the lessons learned at mother's knee do not make as lasting an impression as those learned while stretched across daddy's. A hairbrush may speak louder than words. A hairbrush has been found versatile, having use from top to bottom. The front for unruly hair, the back for unruly conduct. Some say children should learn that those who sow wild oats must expect a time of threshing.
Now, I find this very disturbing, especially when he makes the comment that, "Oh, if you beat your child, he won't die." Well, this is a quote from the Bible. How many kids have been killed because they have been beaten and injured by their parents? You know, I was a victim of physical abuse. I have injuries that are permanent. You know, my wrist was broken at some point and I didn't even know it. So many of us physical abuse survivors, yes, you can kill a child. There was a case here in New Mexico that just happened here a couple of years ago. So yes, you can kill him if you beat him with a rod or a hairbrush.
So they do absolutely believe in corporal punishment. It's not just a matter of taking away your privilege of going to the movies. Geoffrey, I'm an idiot, lying idiot Jackson.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of your mom studying with Carol, who had two little kids.
Yeah.
You know, his mom was studying with him, and the son, he was a problem child. He had been abused by a babysitter, and so he was a problem child, and he was very hyper, you know, and attention deficient, the whole 9 yards. And, you know, sitting there trying to have a study, and at one point, his mom grabbed the kid and spanked him, and then told the mom, "This is what you need to do." So see, this is very much corporal punishment within the Jehovah's Witness, aka Watchtower organization.
Yep. That's why, you know, the more we sit and do this stuff, I mean, granted, we've been doing it for, 9 years now on YouTube, the more you come to have a disdain for the shit that comes out of these men's mouth, because it is so easy to grab a talk that they put out there back in the 50s that the audience is all laughing about regarding corporal punishment and using a hairbrush from top to bottom, and then you hear that idiot Geoffrey Jackson lie under oath.
Yeah, and that's what is so disturbing. You know, even the title alone, how to, rearing children in the New World Society.
Yeah.
So basically that is telling parents, you need to beat your child into submission, otherwise they will not be in the new world.
That's right. How much more of this crap are we really going to listen to?
There's actually an hour-long talk.
Oh, God,
and I do
spare
have,
me.
I do have some more clips. But, the point we're trying to make is so that you can see how disturbing this is. And as Jehovah's Witnesses, I can honestly say we thought nothing of this.
No, no.
This was normal to us.
Exactly.
You know, today, you know, like he's bashing the psychologists back then that, you know, about they were against spanking. This is called child abuse.
Yep, I know. It's there again. The reason why Geoffrey Jackson is lying and lied under oath is because they have gone past their expiration date, and these idiots don't know how to throw the product away.
Well, yeah, because they're still making money.
Yeah, that's the issue. They're making money hand over fist because somebody like my mother and your mother cannot read the milk jug and say, hey, look, this has been sitting 3 weeks past the expiration date. Is this still good?
Well, that's why we're here. We're smelling this for you and telling you it's bad.
It's all fun and games until Mike and Kim show up, right?
Yeah. We're sniffing this for you and telling you how rotten this is.
Yeah.
It needs to be thrown out.
It needs to be thrown out. You know, just like she makes another good point. Okay? And it's the Messiah would, up here, Jesus must be lifted up as the fiery brazen serpent. Now, we did a video a while back about that serpent that Moses made, that copper serpent. You go back and read 2 Kings, and before Hezekiah destroys that idol, the scriptures say that Hezekiah did what was right in Jehovah's eyes. And then he finds the serpent and destroys it. Now, why would Jesus refer to that idol and say, well, just as Moses lifted up the serpent, so the Son of Man? You're still involved with idol worship. But they can't see it because they want to soft pedal just like Geoffrey Jackson does. They want to soft pedal what is in front of their eyes. We are beyond that, friends. we should be beyond it.
Well, what's interesting is when you do research on the term fiery serpent.
Exactly.
You know, all the branches of angels. We've heard the seraphim. Well, when you look up the name seraphim, guess what it means? Fiery serpent.
And
this is an angel that's a fiery serpent?
And that goes right along what Stephen said in Acts chapter 7 in his deathbed confession. In the wilderness you were worshiping angels, the seraphim, the fiery serpent. It's just this easy this day and age, friends.
Yeah. So we digress. Let's go to another clip.
In view of the imitative trait in children, to train your children to live in the new world is the first requirement, is to train your children yourself. You act the way you want your children to act. Be the way you want your children to be. They will tend to imitate you. It is of little value to tell your child what you did when you were a boy or girl its age. It didn't see you then. It sees you now. It's not so much what you did then, it's what you do now. Not what you did as a child, but what you do as an adult. Do you have two sets of principles? One to preach and the other to practice? One for yourself, the other for your child? Do you whisper during meetings, yet scold your child when it causes disturbance? Do you wander around during sessions at large assemblies, yet discipline your child if it does the same at the local congregation? After telling your child not to talk about others, do you gossip? Do you tell it not to lie, then lie yourself? Do you break your promises to it and expect it to keep its promises to you? Do you demand more of it than you do of yourself? Never forget that your actions speak louder than your tongue, that your example says more than your words. Sometimes if you practice your principles, you don't even have to preach them. Some things may seem trivial, but if they violate a principle you are trying to instill in your child, they do harm. The child may think you are inconsistent and unreliable, and feel it too can ignore principles. Your training and precepts must be consistent, or the child will not know where it stands with you, will not be sure that when you say a thing you'll do it, that when you promise you'll perform, that when you threaten you'll fulfill. If you say but do not do, you'll be like the hypocritical Pharisees of whom Jesus said, "They say but do not perform." What they said was all right. What they did was all wrong. So parents, if you don't want little Pharisees, don't be big Pharisees.
Oh my goodness, there was so much in there. It was like, oh, major face palm.
Well, yeah, it's.
You know, Watchtower, you told all of us don't lie. You know, Jehovah hates a liar. And then we have proof that Geoffrey Jackson lied. Do you see why we all call you hypocrites?
Yeah.
You know, if you don't want us to be little Pharisees, then you don't be a Pharisee.
I know, it's disturbing. You know, there again, I know damn well Geoffrey Jackson grew up with this talk in mind, because over the years, I remember J.W. elders giving talks and referring almost verbatim, well, if you don't want your children to be little Pharisees, then don't grow up to be a big Pharisee. I mean, it's, oh my God, it is so, I am so beyond this crap, it's unbelievable.
Are you telling me you're speechless?
Well, because the bullshit should make everybody speechless this day and age.
Well, like I said, that's why these older talks are so awesome. Because then we can take it and say, Watchtower, you're being a big Pharisee, you're lying, and we have the proof. Here's the evidence.
Well, it's just like that crap they got over there in jw.org. Do Jehovah's Witnesses shun? No. Yes, you do. The difference is that the audience that you expect to be looking at that cannot translate that shunning means disfellowshipping. That's where the shunning comes in. And in these days, you printed an article that says, be on the aware of false brothers. So if your brother doesn't use the exact theocratic language that they're supposed to use, then in the mind of that Jehovah Witness, they're leaning towards apostasy because they're not using the pure language that Jehovah has gave us. It's just this simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is. And, you know, that's Jane Doe's channel. I love that channel. But every time she goes to jw.org and grabs a clip from one of the governing idiots, I just about lose my breakfast, because I just can't stand to see them, guys, because I know everything that comes out of their mouth is a manufactured lie or a twisting of the scripture.
Well, the other morning he was watching one and she was playing something from JW broadcast. And he calls her up and he doesn't even say good morning or hi or anything.
I know.
First thing out of his mouth is, do you know how painful that was?
Yeah. Do you know how painful it is listening to these idiots?
So I'm basically torturing you by making you listen to these clips.
Well, to be honest with you, I would much rather be invaded by the Palestinian Liberation Army than listen to these assholes.
I wouldn't. All right, we got another clip here.
To strike a blow in sudden anger is evidence of poor motive, namely the release of the emotional pressure of a steamed-up parent. Such discipline is for selfish relief, not done out of love for the child. In many cases, the solution may be found to lie between the two extremes of never spanking and always spanking. But this is not true in all cases. the temperament and disposition of the individual child must be considered. Some are very sensitive, and such drastic measures as spanking may not be necessary. Some may be so durable that such drastic measures are never effective. Some children are more difficult. But parents, if this is the case with your son or daughter, be patient. As unflattering, as unpalatable, as unacceptable as it may be to you, the child got it from you. Does not the Bible do this, saying, "Well done, good and faithful slave"? So in summing up on the matter of discipline, administer it in love. Punishments may vary according to temperaments of meekness or stubbornness. You may punish by withholding a token of affection, or reward by giving such token. You may banish the unruly child from the company of the obedient, or deny its participation in a family pleasure, or withhold a favorite dessert or pastime. Or at times you may have to use the literal rod to preserve the order of the home. But to illustrate the need of using different methods, here's another true case history. A small boy in Brooklyn had a dental appointment. Before his mother took him, a 4-year-old neighborhood girlfriend told him whenever she went to the dentist, she kept her mouth shut. So, when his mother took him, he refused to open his mouth. Had to take him home. When he got home, he got a good spanking. Next dental appointment, again he refused to open up. A harder spanking followed, but still his mouth remained shut in the dental chair. This youngster was a TV fan. He was denied all access to TV. About 2 TV-less days later, he came and announced he was ready to take on the dentist with an open mouth.
This one was painful because you can see how they view disfellowshipping the same way. Discipline, the same thing. Parents do this to your child. Well, this is what Jehovah does, to show love. But I noticed one phrase in there. It says, withhold a token of affection. Withhold love.
Yeah.
So what the heck, does he mean? Withhold a token of affection.
Make him go to bed without dinner? I mean, you can absolutely see, based on this clip, what Geoffrey Jackson did. He took that one little portion and said, well, my dad may not permit me to go to the movies. That's all he said. And what he actually did is he expired the talk here. Is what he did. Because we all know that's not how Jehovah Witnesses view corporal punishment. We all know that. You get disfellowship. Hey, you have to view it as discipline from Jehovah. Jehovah disciplines those whom he loves.
Well, he mentioned something about, being around the family. Well, that's the same thing as disfellowshipping.
Yeah.
If you will not comply and you want to disobey the organization, the company rules, guess what?
That's right.
We're going to separate you from your family and your family's affection.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. They're monsters.
Yeah, it's disturbing. And like I said, this was very painful, and this entire talk was very painful.
Yeah. I don't know if I can survive the rest of the day after listening any more of this crap.
I know. It's disturbing.
Yet they spank their young, just as your parents may spank you sometimes. In the woods, the first mistake is often the last. And if the young animals disobeyed their mothers, they would become the main course on a woodland menu and end up in another animal's stomach. So while it may not be pleasant for them to be spanked, it's the lesser of two evils. It's better to be beaten than to be eaten. Now, This isn't far-fetched as you might think. You children may not think so, but there's a wild, beastly creature that would like to eat you. Peter warned all of us about him, saying, "Your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking to devour someone." That someone is you, because you love Jehovah. The devil hates Jehovah and would like to swallow up in the evil surroundings of his old world everyone that loves Jehovah. So, just as the wild animal mothers discipline their young to keep them from being eaten, your parents discipline you to keep you from being devoured by the devil's world. The animal mothers train and discipline their young in accord with the instinct God gives them. Your parents train and discipline you in accord with the Bible instruction God gives them.
And there you have it. Proof positive. Spanking, spanking, spanking. So the rod of discipline, Geoffrey Jackson, is physical corporate punishment. And if that don't work, then mental punishment. You take away the boob tube. That's mental punishment. Just like every time I listen to this, it's mental punishment to me.
Yeah.
It's mental punishment. Jehovah loves you. That's why he mentally disciplines you.
Yeah. 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 But, you know, it goes back to where if we would have heard an experience like this, we would have been laughing right along with the audience, because this was normal. This is normal. You know, no wonder, you know, all of us are, you know, have emotional baggage. This isn't normal. This isn't normal. This is child abuse. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. One day, somebody will eventually throw that rotten sour milk out of the refrigerator.
I'd like to. All right.
But look at it this way. Look at it as obedience to Jehovah. God tells the wife to be obedient to her husband, and the slave to be obedient to his master. How should the wife and the slave view this obedience to the husband and to the master? The wife is told to do it as to the Lord. The slave is told to do it as to the Christ. You children, obey your parents as to Jehovah. So in this too you are serving Jehovah, just as you are serving Him when you go out in the witness work. It's part of your duty as a young minister of Jehovah God. Everyone here tonight, everyone in the New World Society, whether man or woman, boy or girl, should agree that we must let Jehovah direct our steps and choose our ways. The New World Society must never be swayed by old world methods that have filled the world with the rotten fruits of delinquency and crime and death. Let them babble about not inhibiting or frustrating or stunning personalities. They're utterly blinded by the silly wisdom of this dying old world if they can't see that sex perverts, fornicators, adulterers, thieves, robbers, liars, blasphemers, idolaters, and murderers should be frustrated. If bad actors are not frustrated in their evil doing and change their ways, they are doomed. If they do not stunt and strip off the old personality of fallen flesh and don the new personality of Christ, they and their personalities will be annihilated at Armageddon.
Now, in this part of the talk, it starts with him talking about the animal kingdom and how the animal moms will discipline, you know, their babies and teach them. And then here comes the fear. Let's scare all the JW kids.
Yeah, with Satan, the roaring lion. Oh my God, it never, ever ends. Nobody throws out the rotten milk. They can't throw it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the very fact that they're using a fear tactic in these children's life. Watchtower, have you not learned? Fear tactics like this don't work.
Yeah.
They really don't work.
Yeah, they may have worked back then. They may have worked in the 70s prior to 1975 on all of us. But people are smarter now. We have the internet. It doesn't scare us anymore when we can do research. And I mean, he's basically saying, you know, you parents, you need to discipline your kids the way we tell you to, because it comes from Jehovah and the Bible. You know, Jehovah tells you how to discipline your kids.
See, and this is the reason why Watchtower at the same time period was not encouraging their young members to go to college, because Anthony Morris even makes mention of, you know, your college professors are going to start teaching your kids. No, they want control of your kids through you, the parent, and it's always, always, always been that way, because that's why my mother disciplined someone else's unruly child and said, well, see, this is how you do it. So they've always wanted control of your children, just like some of our educational institutions to this very day.
Well, that's why they don't want Jehovah Witness kids going to college, because it teaches you how to think critically. You know, how to analyze stuff, how to do research. And guess what? It wakes them up.
Yeah, how to be able to take a scripture in Isaiah and say, look, your Messiah can't be God if he's fearing God himself.
Yeah.
He can't be God.
That throws that Trinity doctrine right out the window.
Flushes it right down the commode.
We keep them sailing along with the New World Society. We instruct, we set examples, and yes, when necessary, we discipline. Let the worldly wiseacres say, if we discipline our children, we hate them. Their undisciplined children will die with them at Armageddon, but our disciplined ones will live forever with us in Jehovah's New World Society. So who are the real haters of their children, and who are the real lovers of children?
Watchtower talking about themselves again.
Well,
you know.
they just predicted their own demise. See, that's the power of the internet and, once again, YouTube, because now we can show how corrupt they have really become, to where even Geoffrey Jackson will swear in the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and then lie about corporal punishment. It's just this simple. Go back to the illustration. You've got to get these Jehovah's Witnesses to throw out that outdated BS that is the Watchtower Babble Crap Society.
Yeah. And you're not going to hear something like this in a talk.
No.
Even though it's still in Watchtower's head that they still believe this. Jehovah's Witnesses still believe this. But they're not going to say anything publicly, because then they know that the governments will go after them.
Yep.
The world will go after them. You know, Satan's organization, Satan's world will go after them.
Let's go ahead and help the government push Satan's propaganda.
Yeah.
They're 501c3. There's no difference. When you look at that picture in the book of Revelation of the harlot riding the beast with that 501c3 Watchtower, that makes you the bought and paid for harlot.
Just like Mother.
Just like Mother. Yep.
Oh.
I think we're going to spare everybody the rest of this talk.
Oh, yeah?
Well, yeah, because, I mean, I'm ready to have a heart attack and keel over listening to this stuff.
I'm ready for lunch.
Yeah. Yes. So, guys, I think we're going to end it right here, because the rest of it is just as painful as what you've already heard. In fact, I would probably rather flush my head down the toilet than to listen to any more of this garbage.
Yeah.
I think you've got some things you want to mention, and we're just going to kind of wrap it up here.
Yeah. There was a Pinkava hearing in Crystal Lake, Illinois on December 16th and 17th, and I haven't done a video with the update because I don't have the documents yet. There was a delay because they hadn't been scanned yet. And so our friend in Illinois, as soon as those documents come in, she is going to send them to me. So, want to thank you all so much for watching, and you all have a wonderful day.
Bye.